All right, we are here, Whispers in the Well, days away. And in all honesty, I won't lie, we took a time, we took the weekend, and I played a bunch of decks. We spent probably way too much time drawing cards. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the Instagram. I can't draw Mowgli. I definitely can't draw Scrooge McDuck. But what I can do is build decks. Here we are. We're going to break them all down today. We got 11 brand new decks, 10 that I think are really cool, different ways to kind of approach the new metagame and really get into playing with new cards. And the last one, if you stick all the way to the end, is my favorite deck of the weekend, the one I had the most fun with. So without further ado, let's get into Whispers in the Well. Before we get too far, just want to remind everybody our release event is on November 15th. $3,000 in prizing going up for grabs. And that's only if we hit the bare minimum. If we hit those numbers, we get up there into the triple digits, we're going to keep raising this price up. So if you're looking to get in early on the metagame, test out these new cards, and just get involved, this is the best way to do it. The link for this, where you can purchase your ticket, will be in the description below. I would love to come see you, kind of join us and support the Philadelphia community. This is kind of our way to give back to the community and saying like, hey, we're willing to rent a hall, kind of be in position to play at games and give everybody that opportunity to get the cards they need and just have a good time in general. So if you're looking for it, definitely hit this up. Also, Friday night, we're going to be doing a release event there as well, kind of just having sealed packs ready to go out and play with Disney Lorcana and Whispers of the Well. So definitely catch us there if you can. If not, it'll probably be some videos, maybe even a stream. Amethyst Sapphire felt like the best deck to start with for a couple of different reasons. A, it has never, ever truly been a meta-relevant deck. Maybe in Chapter 1 it had a shot, but there wasn't enough coverage. There wasn't enough games to really talk about it. However, in Chapter 1, we certainly had cards like Stitch Carefree Surfer. Loving this card, kind of coming back. You're going to see him throughout this video. A big addition, one of those cards that, got reprinted in set 9, hasn't had a lot of time to really shine, but now we're seeing a lot of decks are going to find ways to get to the nitty-gritty and end of the game, and being able to drop bombs like 4/8 to draw 2 cards when you have other characters in play is exactly what you need to be doing kind of toward the latter stages of games. What is this deck offering? What is it doing? Well, it has the meanest card in Disney Lorcana, Daisy Duck, the Paranormal Investigator, the 6-cost inkable, 4 strength, 6 willpower, 2 lore with shift 4, support, and strange happenings. While this character is exerted, cards enter opponent's inkwells exerted. That's right, when you're on the play, when you get to do the thing, play a turn 1 Daisy, play a turn 2 ramp, play a turn 3 Daisy and quest, you can, from turn 3, turn your opponent's cards off, kind of not allowing them to play their 3-cost characters, and being a turn behind, all the while having a 4/6 2-quester in play. I won't lie to you guys, I did it once this weekend. It felt really mean. My wife actually did get pretty upset with me, and that was, something to really talk about, because in the end, when you get to do these things and you get to really be mean on the play, it's going to have some lasting effects on the game. Other cards to kind of note here, of course, are Spooky Sight. Spooky Sight is the 6-cost uninkable new action that reads, put all characters with cost 3 less into their player's inkwell face down and exert it. That's it. We're, kind of just saying like, hey, aggro decks, be alarmed. The good news for aggro decks is not only do they get to, gain Mowgli, but this deck is also representing Mowgli, the 2-cost inkable 1/2 with 1 lore and the ability have a better look. When you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a non-character card of their choice. So Mowgli does add a little bit layer protection for the aggro decks to kind of get around Spooky Sight, but this deck is doing it itself. I'm really interested in trying to figure out what the best Amber decks are, what the best Sapphire decks are, who is going to be the best Spooky Sight deck, how are we going to really utilize Cinderella. And this deck is kind of bringing all of that to the forefront. Also bringing back an old friend in Tamatoa, Happy as a Clam, the 6-cost inkable, 4 strength, 5 willpower, 2 lore. Coolest collection. When you play this character, return up to 2 items from your discard to your hand. And I'm beautiful, baby. When this character quest, you may play an item for free. So that's why you can see here we have Recovered Page, which is a new card. We have Ink Runner, which is a new card. And of course, we're going back to Lantern. All in all, this is just a brand new strategy to Disney Lorcana. It's very early on in testing, but this is where we're starting at on day 1, trying to get a feel for Daisy Duck. Is it good enough? Trying to get a feel for Spooky Sight. Where can it shine the most? and really just trying to put cards down on the table and start playing games and just getting educated on the format. This is a great way to try because I really, really love exploring new cards. Amber Steel. Looks a little bit same, but maybe a little bit different, right? The biggest thing for Amber Steel is that it gained a brand new song in the form of He Hurled His Thunderbolt. The 4-cost uninkable, deal 4 damage to chosen character. Your DD characters gain plus Challenger +2 this turn, which is obviously clearly irrelevant. There are no DD characters in this particular list, but all we're doing is throwing Thunderbolts, which means Troubadour back in, Ursula back in, kind of just getting those Singer 4s established on 2 to be able to answer whatever your opponent is doing early on in the game, all the way up into some of the better cards in the format. The idea that you can play a 2-cost character that can sing 4 and be able to Thunderbolt opposing Cinderella's so she doesn't run crazy is pretty great. Being able to remove Lexingtons from the table, being able to remove Genies, all of those things with those 4 willpower threats, Thunderbolt's going to be able to just get them off the table, and utilizing your 2-cost characters that can Singer 4 to kind of get that done. You can see here, Mowgli, obviously, in this list too, to protect your characters. A couple other new cards to be on the look for is the Aerial Ethereal Voice, the 4-cost inkable, 3-strength, 4 willpower, 2 lore with boost 1, which is the new keyword from Whispers in the Well, and her ability of command performance. Once during your turn, whenever you play a song, if there's a card under this character, you may draw a card. So this is basically its own Ursula's Shell Necklace, which is a Chapter 1 card that did get reprinted, but now you have it on a character, and this is kind of just one-time buy-in. So basically for 5, you're getting a 3/4 with 2 lore that every single time you play a song, or the first time you play a song each turn, you get to draw a card, which is a nice little buffer here. This is also looking to play Look at This Family, which is a card that has really been traditionally okay in the past, but we're looking for more ways to utilize our characters, find the cards that we need to win the game. In this example, finding Mowgli's to remove spooky sites, finding the Pete's when we need it, getting to our big end game threats, like, of course, the Aerial Sonic Warrior is a big deal. This is a card that has kind of fallen out of favor. Didn't have enough songs in the Fabled format, but now we're getting up there. 10 songs feels like enough to maybe get away with this 6-cost, 3-strength, 8 willpower, 2 lore, shift 4 with the ability Amplified Voice. Whenever you play a song, you may pay 2 to deal 3 damage to chosen character. All of a sudden now you could sing a Zeus Bolt, and then boom, right off the top, you can pay 2 more, deal 3 damage to another character. All of a sudden, you're doing 7 damage to a character, which seems insane. But really, this deck is still kind of core to its presence in the current format. Just getting a couple new tools, getting a couple upgrades. Definitely going to have to try some new stuff out to feel it out and see where you're going to need to be. Is the aerial stuff too much? Who knows? I like the idea of putting down some new cards, bringing back some older cards that felt just short enough, and then really giving it the time early on in metagames, kind of learning them, figuring out what is going to be the best moving forward. All in all, I think Amber Steel is still in a great position. I'm not too scared of Spooky Sight just yet, because having Mowgli, having Pete's should give you enough time to kind of win the game and turn sideways. Emerald Sapphire, also known as the big boogeyman of the format. I think there are a ton of ways to build this deck, and this is only one of them. You can see here we are starting with the Webby. So Webby is one of the new characters in the format that I think hasn't gotten a whole lot of talk and a whole lot of love, but she is the 4-cost inkable, 2-strength, 4 willpower, 2 lore with shift 2 and ward, along with work smarter. When this character quests, if an opponent has more cards in their inkwell than you may put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exert it. What this also really does is gives you a warded singer. A 4-cost warded singer that can sing, You're Welcome, Mother's Knows Best, Malicious, Mean, and Scary is enough of a threat on its own. The idea that you can also build this deck that if you wanted to include cards like Under the Sea, depends on how many uninkles we get to. As we're kind of learning all these new things, we're kind of really testing out new cards. So you don't see it here, but you are seeing the ability of just getting a warded character in play early. When she quests, if your opponent's ahead of you, you just get to gain an ink, which I think is amazing. She also is a 2/4. So a 2/4 with ward on turn 2, not really that easy to deal with. If we think about rhinos and things like that, when you're on the play and you're playing rhinos on turn 2 and you're just questing away or singing songs when necessary, there's not a lot of interaction. There's even less interaction when you talk about putting ward on a character like that. So Really liking what Webby can do early. She's a nice little card. Definitely a bit of a different one to explore in Whispers of the Well. The other card, of course, again, is Cinderella. So Cinderella, the 4-cost, uninkable, 2 strength, 3 willpower, 1 lore, with the ability, whatever you wish for at the end of your turn. If you played a princess character this turn, you may put a card from your hand into your inkwell face down and draw a card. This is effectively adding the double ramp feature in the best possible way. We saw a lot of the Emerald Sapphire decks early on want to play cards like Pleakley, want to play extra ramp, just trying to find a way to go ramp so you can get the most out of your deck. This is really just giving it to you exactly how you want it, but it's on a body, it's on a character that if not answered, if this card gets to ready, you have even more opportunity to do more with it. The idea that you can sing a 4-cost song is notable. The idea that you can play a second princess, draw another card, and ink another card is also notable. This deck not really representing that to its fullest, but the other decks in this video that will showcase what you can truly do and get away with Cinderella. I just think that all in all, this is like a really fun thing. But the big core format of this is, of course, Malicious, Mean and Scary, and Prince Philip. Malicious, Mean and Scary is arguably one of the best cards in the new set. We are already referencing it to it as Melissa, Mean and Scary. Look out for a shirt in the merch store. Always merch stores connected to the YouTube. So if you want to represent TFM at your locals, definitely go and grab one of those shirts. But yeah, Malicious, Mean and Scary is a 3-cost inkable. Put 1 damage counter on each opposing characters. This gets around resist, gets around ward, just puts damage on everything. And then we just get to bring in the biggest character in the format, Prince Philip, Vanquisher of Foes, the 9-cost inkable, 6 strength, 6 willpower, has 3 lores, got shift 6, who needs it? With evasive, yep, just because he needed that, because he's a dragon vanisher, obviously, and swift and sure. When you play this character, banish all opposing damage characters. So again, having the ability to just sing, kind of remove, put those damage on with Malicious, Mean and Scary, and then slam a Prince Philip into play is a very, very scary line for anyone involved. This card is massive. And once you hit play, banish everything. It's very similar to Sisu in a way. Again, I keep kind of talking about how good Sisu was. And you needed, an uninkable 3-cost Sisu. There was a 3-cost 1/4, which was good to have. But then Sisu herself were also uninkable. You had to really go into these extra lines of playing cards like Sapphire Coil, all these different ways of saying hey, I need all of these things in my deck. A lot of them are uninkable. And now I'm telling you, you can do all of that in Emerald, but everything is inkable. So it just makes up your deck kind of construction so much easier, so much more room to play. Even in the deck that we're looking at here, there's not that many uninkables kind of laying around in it whatsoever. And I think that that's the most notable thing here is that when you start looking at this deck and go, oh, this list only has 10 uninkables. So there's still room for play. I think there's a lot to be done with this deck over the next couple weeks. It's really good. It's really fun. Melissa, Mean and Scary is a really messed up card, and so is Prince Philip. Ruby Steel finally getting some opportunity. My original thought for this deck was calling it the Power Line combo deck. I really, really want Power Line to be prevalent in the metagame, and I kind of keep forcing it. And a card that I think makes it really, really interesting is Next Stop Olympus. So Next Stop Olympus is a 2-cost inkable Ruby action with the ability, if you have a character with 5 cost or more in play, you pay 2 less to play this action. Ready chosen character, they can't quest for the rest of the turn. The next time they challenge another character, this turn gain a lore. So effectively, with Maui Shark, you have the ability to kind of on repeat for the amount of times that you can challenge with Maui Shark. You can get back Next Stop Olympus and play it for free. When you play the card, you get a lore with Shark. And then when you challenge with Shark, you gain another lore. So for free, we're gaining 2 lore and the ability to get this card back. So again, certain board states, Shark might be able to challenge 3 or 4 times, maybe even more. Gain you up, 8 to 10 lore, depending what else is going on the turn, which I think is really fun and interesting. And then Powerline has the ability to sing all these really powerful songs. And you can also Next Stop Olympus, the Powerline, to ready and re-sing another song based on kind of what you did. Maybe we sang Be King Undisputed, found a Beyond the Horizon, drew cards back up, and then we could play a Next Stop Olympus, ready the Powerline, sing another song with Powerline, and then do it all over again. really just creating these crazy wombo combo type turns. So I think that there's a lot to really explore here. I will say, this is one of the decks that I did play this weekend, and it felt a little bit needy, which is a little bit, it feels a little bad because you really want all these things to work, but maybe it's just not there. But it was fun kind of getting out there, playing the gargoyles, and like really when you went off, you did go off. So that's kind of really fun and interesting. But at the current juncture, it felt a lot of like ink pass, ink pass. Well, not like ink, but like ink, play a card, pass, ink, play a card, pass. And by the time you got to that 6 resources, if you didn't live the dream and have the shift, power line, which is very difficult. There's a lot of ways to interact with the smaller power lines because their willpower isn't high. So this one in particular was fun for me to play this weekend, but it probably needs a big revamp, just understanding like what is the power points of this deck and how to move forward. But if you're looking to just like do something fun, there was a turn where I gained 14 lore in a turn with Shark and Next Stop Olympus, which makes me believe something's got to be there for this one. Quick reminder for everybody, the Amber Emerald Dogs deck did get more updates this past weekend. We added 2 gameplay reviews from DLC Milwaukee in the Fable metagame, and Melissa also wrote the first chapter from Whispers in the Well, all the new cards from it, and kind of where we're starting, which is something we want to just put out there. Like, check the pin comment below. If you want to become a Dogs player, that card, you can see behind me, it won me a golden Mickey. This guide is everything. I can't praise it more. Without Melissa, without that guide, I would have not have been nearly as good in the Amber Steel matchup that I went 9-0 undefeated against it in Milwaukee. Looking to get better. If you're looking to learn from one of the absolute best in the community, check out this guide. Purchase it. It's in the description below. Great way to support TFM. And you never know how many times you're going to need this to be better in your games. Amber Emerald Dogs. That's right. Here is our day 1 Dogs deck. Let's just talk about quickly some of the new cards in it that are the most interesting. So some of the new cards we really want to focus on early and just get them in testing and figure out if they're good enough is the new song. So we played Heffalumps and Woozles in the Fable metagame, and now we're going to try out Della's Moon Lullaby. Chosen opposing character gets -2 until the start of your next turn. Draw a card. This kind of does a lot of things. It protects our dogs, which is really nice. It turns off Calhouns. It makes rhinos a little bit easier to deal with. It really does a lot of nice things for the format to protect our high willpower characters. But it also kind of helps with our Under the Sea. This is a card that we want to be able to get off. We want to be able to remove characters. If we can set up certain boards, it's definitely reasonable to sing Lullaby, minus something, and then sing Under the Sea, get rid of the board even more. It's definitely a card that's worth trying early and kind of just getting invested in. Of course, I keep talking about it. The best Emerald or the best Amber card of the set very well might be Mowgli, the 2-cost inkable 1/2 1 lore. Have a better look. When you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a non-character card of their choice. This is kind of it. Like, this card is just another addition to the deck as we're kind of really going in now with Mowgli and with Ursula to protect all of our cards that are ready, stand up, and be able to combo off with our tramps and our ladies and things like that. Having 4 more cards that do this, turning off spooky sites, getting rid of opposing songs that are problematic, protecting everything, that is going to be a factor moving forward with this deck. Is that if your opponent is relying on a card like Spooky Sight and you have 4 answers in Mowgli, if they're relying on the Strength of a Raging Fire, the Zeus, and you have the Ursula, you're just going to be able to remove the cards and stop them in their tracks. This deck, always going to be good, always going to be reasonable, and it's a deck that we're going to keep exploring and keep adding to that guide as the format evolves, and we're just going to keep loving it because this is a guide that is very near and dear to our hearts. Obviously, Melissa's been putting a ton of work into this one, and myself putting a ton of work in this one, all the way to a top 4 finish in DLC Milwaukee. So definitely check out that guide if you want to hear even more about this list. Sapphire Steel, it's finally back. It's no longer a meme, and I can't say that it was in Fabled either. Shout out to our good friend Tyler, who did make top 32 with Sapphire Steel from an old friend, Attack for 2, Dave Solberg, kind of putting in a lot of work before Fabled. But now this deck got a lot of new tools, and it's quite powerful to boot. So much like I said before with Emerald Sapphire, Sapphire Steel had always been looking to double ramp and start playing bombs. So anytime in any deck that we can think of in the past that was looking to double ramp, they're just going to love this Cinderella. Cinderella, again, being able to whatever you wish for, which is when you play the princess, draw the card, And then Ink again, this deck has nothing but powerful princesses. Having the Jasmine Fearless Princess, of course, the 5-cost sinkable 3/7 2 lore. Take that leap. During your turn, this character gains evasive. And now's my chance. Choose and discard a card. This character gains Challenger +3 this turn. This is a card I spoke of really highly before Milwaukee, and now it's even better because of Cinderella. We also have Namari, the single-minded rival, the 5-cost inkable, 0 strength, 5 willpower, 2 lore with strategic edge. Whenever you play this character at the start of your turn, you may draw a card and choose and discard a card. Extreme focus. This character gains +1 strength for each card in your discard. She's also a princess, continuously triggers the ability to put Cinderella into the bag and just get more value out of it. But the real thing for this deck is that it is so very much focused on the ability to clear its hand, dump its stuff early, and then fill back up with cards like Doc. But now we also have Goliath Clan Leader, the 6-cost inkable, 6 strength, 5 willpower, 2 lore with Dust Till Dawn. At the end of each player's turn, if they have more than 2 cards in their hand, they choose and discard cards until they have to. If they have fewer than 2 cards in their hand, they draw until they have to. And of course, the Stone by Day mechanic, which is if you have 3 or more cards in your hand, this character doesn't ready. Not a big deal. This is fine because this deck is just dumping cards consistently into the discard pile and then drawing cards back up. And now with the Goliath, you're going to start your next turn with potentially 3 cards in your hand and really just finding the bombs like Tinkerbell, Hades, and of course, Vincenzo. I think this deck is very, very good. I think the Goliath and the Cinderella is exactly what this deck needed to be put over the top and become a true threat to the metagame. It's a great starting point. Shout out to Orion for this early deck list. Now we have, of course, Amethyst Steel. Amethyst Steel is near and dear to my heart. It is my baby. And what I love more than anything is in a new format when you get this many playable cards. And listen, I can see that, like, probably you're looking at this list and you're like, oh my God, there's way too many cards. I know it is. It was 29 proxies that we wrote out and played with so I can play games with this deck, so I can give you the best information about it so I can really talk about this. So we're going to break this one down in depth. It's also going to, check out the guide, of course. But this one has a bunch of new cards. First of all, Black Heron, 2-cost, 3/3 with a lore vanilla. Whatever. It's a body. It's a 2-cost, 3/3. It's replacing Raja because now we don't have to worry about Vanish. Awesome new card to boat. Cheshire Cat, the 3-cost 3/4 with 1 lore. It's got boost. It has the ability to move damage around. Really interesting new card to kind of work with. If we have so many 4/4s like the Cobras, like the Lawrence, like the Lexington, it gives us a chance to really kind of break out of the mold, put this card in play, start moving damage around, and interact with the board. That way, really, really fun and interesting new card. Lexington, arguably one of the best cards in the set. 3-cost, 4/4 with 1 lore and alert. Definitely a card to be looking out for. Demona, both of them, by the way. But the first one, Betrayer of the Clan, the 4-cost inkable, 4 strength, 6 willpower, 1 lore, Challenger 2, Stone by Day. I watched an event over the weekend where Elsa Gloves Off was one of the better cards in Sapphire Amethyst, and that's a 3/4 with Challenger. This is a 4/6 that's inkable with Challenger 2. When you put this card into play on turn 4, it is just like everything Iago wished it could be. Like, this card is absolutely stats, and it's just going to make the board stand still, and it's going to be absolutely insane. Hades is another new addition here. So Hades looking for a deal is the 5-cost inkable, 3 strength, 4 willpower, 1 lore. What you say? When you play this character, you may choose an opposing character. If you do, draw 2 cards unless that character puts that card onto the bottom of their deck. So this is effectively a 5-cost card that's like really interacting with the board. And I think where it's going to play kind of the most into it is that there's a world where this Amethyst Steel deck, that when you're playing it, boards just stop and they stand still, and you're kind of just waiting for a moment to like open up the board state. And I think that there's going to be a lot to be learned about that. And there's a lot of lessons learned that I'm putting in the guide this week. So if you're looking to hear more about this, even more in depth, grab the Amethyst Steel guide, of course. But this card, while Belle has always been one of the best cards in the past, it's so hard to get Belle to do her thing on average on curve, because you're just playing cards that have better stats than your opponents like almost every single turn. So they're not turning sideways. So Hades comes into play and says, okay, I'm going to remove this problematic character. And if not, I'm going to draw 2 cards. And the truth about that is that drawing 2 cards in this format is really, really good. So while Bell has always been kind of like the better card on average on turn 5 in the past, I think Hades is going to be the perfect card for this format because of the way the format's going to be played and how there's going to be so much just like standstill and not really turning sideways and getting the most out of cards like Bell. So I do think that's a really, really good notable thing. Now, back to the deck itself here. Of course, the other big new cards, and I'm playing both of them, and we'll talk about that in a second, but Demona is the first one, right? Demona, Scourge of the Wyvern Clan, the 6-cost inkable, 5 strength, 6 willpower, 2 lore with Ad Saxium Commutate. I know I butchered that one. So very sorry. But when you play this character, exert all opposing characters, then each player with fewer than 3 cards in their hand draws until they have 3. This turns everything on. When you play this, now all of a sudden Lexington can challenge. All of a sudden our other Demona can challenge. Even the Hades can challenge. If we didn't have Hades, we had Namari. I'm certain that she can challenge. So now this card, not only, yeah, it draws us 3 cards, which is wonderful, but it really does turn on all of the stats that we've been putting in play, allowing us to make the best possible trades that we can, and then pick up the, the pieces on a later turn with 3 brand new cards in our hand. I think it's a really, really phenomenal addition to this deck, and it's crazy. I'm also playing the Goliath Clan Leader in this deck as well. Early on in the metagame, guys, what this is all about for me is playing as many new cards as possible. If the card is playable, I'm going to jam it in the deck, and I'm going to try it. If it's maybe not playable, I'm going to learn really, really quickly. This deck having Demona and Goliath as these 2 new 6-cost legendary bombs in the set, they both kind of each have their room and have their meaning. I'm not exactly sure which is better at the current juncture of where we are in the format, but both of these cards have been very, very good in the decks that I've been playing them. And that's why so far early on, we're just jamming all of them. We're going to play as many games as possible with the deck and learn so we can really best educate you guys moving forward. Of course, nonetheless, that's not all. There's more, guys. Like, there's literally more. We're trying out so many new cards. It's insane in this deck, but they all kind of have a reason. Now, can't hold it back anymore, right? The 4-cost uninkable, exert chosen opposing character, remove all damage counters from other characters to that character. So it's quite the interesting one, but it does get to kind of just exert a character when we need to. Again, if there's a problematic character, this is the best thing ever. We get to exert it down and just remove it. I just talked about how damage is really difficult to have early on, but this kind of can end up with some interesting lines. I think once you play Demona, if we still have a singer to utilize Can't Hold It Back, then we get to like make a trade that we want, maybe then sing, exert chosen opposing character, remove all damage. The good news about this is that it doesn't have to exert a ready character. So you can choose and exert a character just to double check. So you can still choose a character and then that character will move all the damage to it. I think that's also really, really notable about this card. It is uninkable. Zeus is also uninkable. So like we're playing around with like what cards feel the most meaningful. And I think there's a good chance that depending on how you build out your deck, either one of those cards could be the true answer. Of course, we talked about Zeus Bolt a bunch, so we don't need to include that here. But the last card we want to talk about real quick is the Robot Queen, which is the 1-cost inkable. Whenever you play a character, you may pay 1 and banish this item to deal 2 damage to chosen character. This card was just a kind of an include for me because I really wanted to try it out and see how this deck felt with it. I think this deck having Doc as a way to draw cards, having Demona as a way to draw cards, having, the Genies and then Amari's the World to filter cards, and even Hades, you do end up with like a lot of cards and turns where on the off turn, you're going to undercut to play one of these cards and have this extra resource. And if all you're doing is popping off, it's really has been pretty fine. It's honestly been better than I expected it to be. So yeah, there you have it. 29, I think, new cards when we counted it for the proxies this past weekend. And it's been a lot of fun playing and kind of just getting used to the new cards in the format. There's a lot of power, a lot of stat curves. This deck, I think, gained the most benefits out of the stats in the format. And therefore, I think it's going to end up just being the de facto mid-range deck. So, of course, again, if you want to support us, check out the rotation guide. We're going to be covering this deck again, moving forward into Whispers in the Well. This is a deck that I just think is going to be very good, very powerful. It has really a lot of the best cards in the format, similar to Sapphire Amethyst of Fabled. I think Amethyst Steel is going to be that for Whispers in the Well metagame, where it's just going to continuously have all the tools, and it's about positioning and how you want to build the deck moving forward. So if you want to support us, you want to learn even more about this deck and kind of keep it up to date, hit that in the description below and support TFM. Ruby decks are back on the menu. Ruby Sapphire day 1 testing. All right, so the question becomes, what did we gain and how can this deck be successful? Well, of course, we gained some inkable threats to the game, right? Like before, this deck was having to play Scrooge McDuck, which was an uninkable 5/5. Now we get Goliath, and Goliath effectively has a Calhoun mechanic, which is a big deal because we can still gain the lore early. The 4-cost inkable, 5 strength, 5 willpower, 1 lore. Be careful, all of you. Whenever one of your gargoyle characters challenges another character, gain 1 lore. This does include himself. So now this 5/5 gets put into play on turn 3, and as soon as turn 4 hits, we can start challenging and removing cards from the field. Still gaining lore and getting those ticks along the way, I think is really, really notable. Of course, and again, Cinderella is the key to everything. I think a lot of these Sapphire decks are simply wanting to ramp twice to get to Spooky Sight, to get to the bombs in their deck faster. So Cinderella, again, is just the perfect card for all of these Sapphire decks. This particular deck is also trying out the Tinkerbell Temperamental Fairy, the 5-cost inkable, 5 strength, 3 willpower, 1 lore with shift 3, and harmless diversion. Whenever you play this character, exert chosen opposing character with 2 strength or less. And of course, we also gain the 1-cost, 3 strength, 1 willpower, 1 lore, the fancy footwork Tinkerbell. So we have a prime time shift target to boot. What we also kind of gain is the ability to have, cards like Bee Kingdom Disputed back in the format, and then, Pirate's Life, because we, at the end of the day, are a Maui Shark deck. We have all the tools to find all the cards that we need as well. Sudden Scare is another card that I think is interesting here. The put chosen character into their player's inkwell face down. That player puts the top card of their deck into their inkwell. So Sudden Scare is a new removal tool that this deck gains. The question is, of course, is it too much of a value to give to your opponent? Is this card, giving our opponent 2 ink seems very problematic. There's a lot of decks that'll certainly take it. There's an argument to be made that because of Spooky Sight, it's irrelevant, and that's kind of where I would kind of go with that, is that, hey, Spooky Sight is already removing everything cost 3 or less, so Sudden Scare has the ability to kind of double down and remove that remaining character that might be problematic, and at that point, you're just like, yeah, you have so much ink anyway, who cares? Of course, the final runnings of this card, I think the most important card that people just aren't really giving enough talk is David Xanatos, the 6-cost inkable, 5 strength, 5 willpower, 2 lore, with the abilities Learn from Everything during your turn. Whenever one of your characters is banished, draw a card. And What Are You Waiting For? Whenever this character quests, chosen character gains Rush this turn. This card immediately turns on Maui Shark, which is awesome. It gives you the ability to kind of turn on Hades the turn you play it, so it also can remove 2 characters. When we get up there, it can give Maleficent Rush as well. So Maleficent comes in, banishes a card, and then gains Rush as a giant 7/5. This card really just turns on a lot of the functions of the deck. It makes it very difficult for your opponent to interact. Even giving a late game Gargoyle Rush is relevant. Even the 1-cost Tinkerbell 3/1 can be relevant. It's just going to really turn the game into your tide and just create very awkward moments for your opponent on a 5/5. World's Greatest Criminal Mind is in the format, so it can hit it, but this card does survive Zeus. So, dealing with this card is not necessarily that easy for a lot of decks in the format, specifically when we get to play this card on turn 4 on average. If we go Tipo or Sail into Cinderella, it's very simple that on turn 4, we're putting this card into play. And then for the rest of the game, we're playing cards that gain Rush, which makes it very difficult for our opponent to turn sideways. Amber Ruby is another deck that has always had some fun in the sun, and this is now the latest version of it as we're trying out different cards again. It's day 1 testing. It's the best time to explore, so why not do that with some crazy looking decks? So here we are, Circle of Life, and this is one of the most fun cards in the format. This was a Fabled Legendary. Did get to see a little bit of love in DLC Milwaukee, a little bit of love in DLC Bologna, but didn't break through to a top cut to get the kind of probably a little just due that it deserves. So Circle Life, of course, is the 8-cost inkable sing together 8, play a character from your discard for free. Now, this really does enable a lot of things. In this particular ink combination, it's very difficult to find ways to put cards in the discard pile. which is why we're looking at Dale. Dale, the Mischievous Ranger, is the 4-cost Inkable, 3 strength, 4 willpower, 1 lore from Azurite Sea with the ability Nuts and Nuts About Pranks. When you play this character, you may put the top 3 cards of your deck into the discard and give chosen character -3 strength this turn. This is kind of relevant for 2 things. It does fuel the fire, which gives us more cards to put in the potentially put back into play with Circle of Life, but it does power down for the Headless Horseman. The Headless Horseman is the 5-cost inkable or uninkable, 4 strength, 2 willpower, 2 lore with 2 abilities. Leave no trace. When you play this character, banish opposing character with 2 strength or less and gathering strength. During your turn, whenever an opposing character is banished, each of your characters gets +1 strength. So it kind of just counterintuitives itself, the ability to banish something and then, of course, give everything a buff, which is quite notable. The other thing that this deck is doing is kind of just being all around annoying. Having cards like Tiana, the Natural Talent, the 4-cost uninkable, 2/4 with 1 lore and Singer 6, and then Captivating Melody. Whenever you play a song, each opposing character gets -1 strength until the start of your next turn, which is nice because it can protect your board. So when we sing with Tiana, we can sing Circle of Life. The Circle of Life will go into the bag. We'll get to put a Headless Horseman into play. That'll go into the bag. It'll all resolve. Your opponent will get -1 strength. And then a card like Headless Horseman has the ability to banish a problematic character that you were able to -1 this turn. I think that's a really cool and interesting effect here. Of course, we're using Bronx in this deck. Bronx is the 3-cost 6/4 with Reckless. It's just stats. It's a big old body in Ruby that I'm afraid we're going to see a lot of most likely. The other shout out here is the new 1-cost Amber Alawani. I think I said that right. I could be wrong. I'm sorry if I did. But she is effectively an Amber Basil, the 1-cost 2/1, 1 lore with support. This is a pretty nice keyword here. Support has been really good for the very long time. And now we're getting an Amber. We saw how good Basil was. We're very curious to see if this character can be good itself as well. The other big notes here, again, we have the David Xanatos. We have Next Stop Olympus. We have a bit of that combo going on with Maui again. And a card that I've always been so fond of is the Chip and Dale, the 8-cost uninkable, 6-cost or 6 strength, 6 willpower, 3 lore with shift 5. And it can shift on either Chip or Dale, of course, but it has the ability Search and Rescue. During your turn, whenever a character card is put into your inkwell, you may return character card from your discard to your hand. This is just really nice. You're picking up cards back. You're able to really start hitting the ground running and just dropping threat after threat after threat. Having repeatable Horsemans is really cool. Having repeatable, Maui Sharks is really great. Having the ability to re-Mowgli your opponent is pretty cool. It just gives you a little bit more reach just for inking a card. And I think it just, it really just goes the extra distance. All in all, I think this is just a brand new archetype that is worth exploring in the metagame. And again, it's early on. Grab out the weird cards, see how they work, and just start playing and enjoying Disney Lorcana. Well, we couldn't end the video without Sapphire Amethyst, right? The #1 deck in Disney Lorcana history, representing 30+% in 2 DLCs, 40% in the day 2 of Milwaukee. This deck is pretty unquestionably one of the best decks in the format for Fabled, and the question on everyone's mind is, will that continue moving forward? I think the answer is probably, considering that its worst matchup before was aggro decks, and now it has the board wipe that it's been looking for. Having Spooky Sight, the 6-cost uninkable Sapphire action, put all characters with cost 3 or less into their players' inkwells face down and exert it, is kind of the card it's been looking for. Having Cinderella, again, this dreams comes true whenever you wish for ability in your deck. I keep saying it. The theme of this set is really simple. We're going to ramp on 2 and then ramp on 3. And both times we're potentially putting characters into play that do something and that represent a song that you can sing. That's exactly what's going on here. So this deck has the capability of just saying yep, I'm going to play a Tipo, I'm going to play a Cinderella, and then I'm going to play a Spooky Sight, which has the ability to just stop aggro in its tracks. That is scary, friends. Having cards like Basil to buff up these characters and support when you need to is all relevant. In this version, early on, I'm on 8 1-drops, and that's only because I expect in the early weeks aggro to still be there, and you don't want to just fall on your face when you miss. So having the correct answers early is quite relevant. Some of the other new cards that are really, really worth testing are this is Ursula, the Whispers of Vanessa. 5 cost inkable, 4 strength, 5 willpower, 2 lore with boost 1. With the ability Slippery Spell, while there's a card under this character, she gains +1 lore and gains evasive. Being a pseudo 6 cost 4/5 with 3 lore and evasive is an absolute threat. I think this card is going to gain a lot of lore. I think Mufasa is also time to shine in this deck. Having so much like better ways to go double ramp, get you to where you need to be sooner, and he's going to be the one that gets you gets you the most out of your spooky sites, being able to ramp up to him quickly, get cards back in your hand, filter Cinderella a bit more. I do wish there was a couple more princesses in this deck, but at least we still have Belle, Accomplished Mystic. She is a good follow-up as a princess herself, but we don't, unfortunately, Elsa is a queen, not a princess, so we don't get all the love from Cinderella there. But all in all, I think this deck is going to be fine. I think it's really close to what it was before. And yeah, maybe we're exploring some new options here with the Tamatoa lines. So Tamatoa gets to come back because of Junior Woodchuck's guidebook, the 2 cost inkable, with the ability, the book knows everything. Exert this and pay 1. Banish this item to draw 2 cards. Effectively, this is not Popsicle, but it does give you the ability to continuously get cards back in your hand. I think it's really difficult right now to keep cards in your hand. So having Junior Woodchuck guidebook is nice. Having to be able to repeatable it with Tamatoa, Happy as a Clam is a big deal. Ink Runner is a card that after this weekend in this particular deck, I'm not sure how easy it is to play, but it is that in hindsight, pretty rough popsicle, but hey, it is a popsicle. It's pay 2, it's inkable. You get to when you play this, you draw a card, and it also gives us the ability to play the Belle Apprentice, which is a card that has been in and out of the metagame, but now it can come back. I think you can have some really, really powerful turns with this. Any world where we get to quest, with our Tamatoa, put one of these inkables into play for free, potentially even let's just say on turn 1, we have a Rafiki. On turn 2, we can Ice Spikes, exert the character down, banish the Ice Spikes, put our Belle into play, Rafiki their character, and now we still have potentially a 3/3 in play and maybe even the Rafiki. I think that that's a really, really powerful play against the aggro decks. Obviously, there's only 1 Ice Spikes in here, and it's really because we can get it back later in the game if we need to. I think that this deck could also just be a Demona deck. Right now, we're trying out some other things because we don't really want to give our opponent the resources to kind of come back in the game. But there's no doubt in my mind that I'm just trying out some other cards. It will not shock me if Vanessa is not the card you want and Demona is just almost always better. Totally a reasonable choice that you can make. But I really just want to try in my testing early, kind of go out there and try as many new cards as possible. For me, in these first 2 weeks of Whispers, all I want to do is play new cards, which is why so many of the decks have so many new cards focused, because I can't be educated and give you guys the best information unless I'm playing the cards myself. I built 6 decks this weekend. Probably over 100 proxies were written on. Some of the art was fun. Some of it was bad. Some of it was terrible. But it's about getting the information, putting the cards on the table and start playing games with them. And that's what's most important to me. So with that, my favorite deck of the weekend, no questions asked, whether I was playing it, whether I was watching Melissa play it, that is, of course, Amber Emerald Dogs. I mean, this deck was so much fun. It's just a new way to play it. The Circle of Life is one of my favorite cards in the format, and being able to go out there and kind of just have this toolbox cards after playing this aggro combo deck in DLC in Milwaukee and finding success. It's really nice to find a more aggro control combo deck in a way. This is a little bit, it's kind of the same, but kind of different. It does all the things that you want to, but this was absolutely my favorite deck on the weekend. I 100% say, hey, go check it out. Go try it. Malicious, Mean, and Scary is a really messed up card. Having Clarabelle in this deck is really fun. Just all these new ways to draw cards and really just be innovative. And that's what I love most about this format. Again, shout out to our other sponsor, Codex Journals. If you want to get the best notes that you can, up your game in a big way, you should be checking out codexjournal.com/the Forbidden Mountain. And of course, use Codex offer 5359 to get 10% off at checkout. If you're looking to get the absolute most out of Whispers in the Well to up your game, there's no better place than booking a coaching session with me. Pin comment below, get in there. I am here to help you get better. I am actually playing Disney Lorcana, I think 5 of the next 6 weekends. I'm going to be at the Safari Zone a couple times. I'm going to be at Luxury Gaming. I'm going to be going to PPG Orlando. We're going to be doing lots of stuff, playing lots of game, and I'm looking to give back. So if you want to really, truly take this set serious, win your set champs, get day 2s at DLC Richmond, all of those things, no better place than me right here. DLC Milwaukee top 4 Golden Mickey winner, first place overall in Swiss. Book your coaching session today, and I hope and look forward to meeting you and getting you better at Disney Lorcana. Thank you guys so much for watching today. Let me know in the comments below what Whispers in the Well deck you're most excited for. See you next time.